And for me, as everyone else, it's a progression thing in life. And so first thing that happened to me was I went to the Spina Bifida conference, and this was when I was about 25 or 30. And I remember walking in, I saw all these people in wheelchairs, and I looked at all these women who were much older than I was, and they had their hair done up nice, and they had their clothes on, and they were really pretty, and they had their makeup on, and I thought to myself, you know, I can do that. So I went home, and I made a decision, you know, I'm just going to really work at it, and so I started doing that. So, of course, then I got my confidence up and decided, well, as they've talked about, you know, you want to have a male person in your life. So actually what happened was I'd been going out with a guy, and he dumped me. And I was hurt, and so I decided, well, I'll show you. I'm just going to call a dating service, so that's what I did. So I show up, and they're like, first thing they said was, well, we wondered why you were 4'8", but now, you know, we get it. And then they said, well, we'll give you a discount because we don't have much, you know, business for people with disabilities. And I'm like, well, why do you think I'm here then? I'm like, so anyway, I did make a request from them, which seems kind of odd now when I look back, but I requested to date gentlemen who, because I had a good job at that time, I worked at Principal, and I wanted them to make more money than I did, because I figured with my disability I had medical bills, so if I fell in love with somebody, I wanted them to be able to pay the bills, so that was my logic anyway. So anyway, I went out with two guys, and the first date, I'm out to dinner, and there's a big wig guy from Principal who notices me and knows who I am and comes over, and I'm sure wondering what's going on. And so he gets, you know, we get to try to do the introductions, and I can't remember the guy's name for the life of me because I just met him. And so he stands up and he introduces himself and shakes his hand, and you know, and all of that. And so we just kind of laughed about it after he left, like, you know, we pulled that off and so forth. But then the second guy that I went out with, I really liked him. He was a very family-oriented person, and we just had several things in common. And so he called me the second time for a date, and I'm like, wow, so I passed the test, so I get to go out again, you know, kind of thing. So I get all dolled up again, and well, he took me to Dairy Queen to tell me that he could deal with my disability, and this was going to be our last date. I'm like, okay, great. I am done with y'all. I'm not chasing no more. So I didn't realize until I did this speech, and Diane was talking to me, and it's like I didn't go back to the dating service. I was just done. So, you know, maybe this many years later I'd try it again, but you never know. So anyway, I have my list. Now, this doesn't mean that, you know, this is, every girl probably has her list. My list was, you know, physically attractive, and you know, pay your bills on time, and you know, be a spiritual person, and the other thing was emotionally intact. So that's what I was looking for. So finally I said, well, this isn't working, and even though I thought that this list was, you know, pretty okay. And so many years down the line then, I started going out with an organization called Johnny and Friends. Have you guys heard of that? It's a lady who, she's paralyzed from the neck down, and she delivers wheelchairs overseas. And so I was able to go to Peru and to Africa and to Poland with that organization, and which was really cool. And I do have to tell a funny story. When we were in Peru, the guy that was my translator was flirting with me most of the day. And so at the end of the day, you know, he's asking me, you know, how old are you? And I knew that I was much older than him. No, I didn't lie how old I was. I was tempted. And I knew with, you know, being in two different countries, that just wasn't going to work. But it felt great, you know. I think that was a special time, or a special moment to boost my confidence, kind of thing. So anyway, but back to Johnny and Friends thing. So I was able to go with them, and also been to the Philippines and so forth. And the only thing I say that I haven't done is on my bucket list is to take a cruise to Australia. So my point in telling you all of that is that you can find happiness in many different ways. Mine just happens to be in the work that I do. And I think that I'm a pretty good catch. And so, if you want to hear, the rest of the story, my friend here is working on my autobiography for hoping to come out next year. So, anyway, thank you for listening to my story, and I appreciate it.